So here, Jordy L provided a series of Toa and monsters. So we're going to spend a bit of time here with Jordy L because they have given us some fantastic stuff, and there's a lot to talk about here. The first one we have is Gulewa or Guliwa, depending on how you pronounce Liwa. But I'm going to read the background that was provided. Gulewa is the leader of the trio. He's the captain of the Toa forces together with his trusted allies Hunawa and Rahatu. Gulewa's abilities to protect the forest have been greatly expanded with the addition of his newfound armor. Through the years, he figured out a way to have his armor become sentient and become a wind force of protection and damage. He traded his arm to have another newly forged Liwa axe to become a terrifying slaying warrior. This is a fantastic mock, and I love the story about the armor, the sentient armor that this character has, and it really fits with the build, and I love it. I feel like this build, like this character originally would have just been a very classic kind of Toa build, just looking basically like Liwa or something. But then he got this armor, and it gave him all these advancements and changed him. Now he's got these extra hip joints. His legs are longer. He's got the steel boot things from Rahatu. He's got the chest armor, the broader shoulders, the things on his back, which I don't know what they are, but they're cool. I like them, and the axes, of course. So the story and the character design are working in tandem here, which I guess you've probably heard me say that like 100 times now. So it is something that I find quite important when the character design and the story are working together. Also gave me free reign to come up with my own stats for these characters, which is a daunting task because I don't want to be like, I don't want to mess up somebody else's characters. That's a high responsibility. But I'm gonna do the best I can with the information that was provided about this character. So here are the stats as seen by Sharik. I might be completely wrong. If you guys have different takes on what the stats of these characters should be, definitely leave your suggestions in the comments, and we'll see. Maybe Jordy L will comment and let us know what the best stats are. So I think strength is going to be 5. I'm keeping that one right at average. I think it would be higher with the armor, but I had to make some adjustments somewhere. I'm going to say this Toa originally actually wasn't the strongest, so the armor bumped them up to 5, which I think it works for me for now. We'll see if I want to change that. The speed, since I want to make some of the other stats quite a bit higher, I'm gonna make a sacrifice in speed, because I think the armor, just in a normal situation, I think the armor would actually slow this character down a bit because you can see there's a lot of heavy armor. I think it might make him more mobile, but I think it also kind of slows him down just a little bit. Intelligence is going to be 5, average. I think this character has a lot of knowledge of his surroundings, of his area of the forest that he lives in, the jungle. So I think that's where his intelligence really comes in, is from knowing his region. His courage is going to be 6, a little bit above average, just because as the leader of the team, and from what we heard about this character, I think he would have slightly above average courage. Really, I think it would be higher, but again, I need to bump some other stats up, so I'm going to put it at 6 for now. I'm going to make the skill a little bit lower, because I think with the armor, the character needs to be less skilled. If you have a lot of armor and really cool weapons, your skill isn't necessarily as important, because your gear is working for you. And the endurance, this is where I really wanted to give some points because of that armor. I'm going to say the endurance is 7. Ideally, I would put it even higher, but since I only allow myself to use 30 points, I'm going to go ahead and keep it here at 7. Although, you know what I'm going to do here? I'm going to say just because this isn't a standard Toa, it's a Toa like with this exosuit of sentient armor, I'm just going to say every point or every trait automatically gets bumped up by 1. That seems fair to me, because I think this armor would just add a little bit to everything. So we're just going to say this character has 36 points to spend, and we'll just add 1 extra point to everything. And then for the bonus points, I'm going to say that when In combat with his team, Goulet gets a huge boost to speed. He's the leader, so I feel like since he has such a strong connection to the other members of his team, as we'll get into when we dive into them, I think in order to protect them and to protect their forest, he would get a boost of speed in the heat of combat. Up next, we have Rahatu. And here is the background given on Rahatu. Rahatu is the leader's right hand. She is the advisor and brains of the team. She is not a warrior to be trifled with. She is the main protector of the forest grounds. She has special brawling mauls to destroy any enemy that comes close to her. She might not be fast, but if she comes close, you better run away. She is a very close-range warrior and very loyal to the cause. So this is one of those builds where the more I look at it, the more I like it. I'm particularly fond of the shoulder pieces, of using those Borak feet connected to various Technic connectors in order to put the shoulders where they are, essentially. Because I also kind of feel like that connection, having the socket right there, right next to the pinhole on the torso, or it might be back a bit further, it might be the axle hole. But either way, I think it would actually add a bit extra friction to that connection, which would make it a stronger connection. If that's the case, I think that's really cool, and I really like that. I also like how the Metru Matoran armor was added here. I always like that armor piece quite a lot. It can be difficult to use in some instances because of like it's got good connection points, but there are little bits hanging off of it that make it hard to like get it flush against something or to have it in certain positions. And it's got that neck pin, which I always find kind of gets in the way when you're putting it when you're trying to work with it. But I really like that piece was used here. So well done on that. Way to use a nice piece there. And it also, the color creates cohesion with the shoulders, the chest armor, the Akmo mask. It's all very very nice, and it even though it's a slightly different brown, it still works with the brown of the feet, and also that you find on the weapon pieces. So here are Rahatu's stats as composed by myself. Her strength is 7. From what I heard in the background that provided, this character, while also smart, is just kind of a bit of a brawler when it comes to fighting. Just kind of get close to people and then smash them up. So we're going to say that she has high strength, because I think she would need that in order to be to be that type of fighter. And also I think that would mean her speed is a bit lower, because she just needs to get in close, and when she's in close, she doesn't really move around a lot, just kind of stays with them and beats the heck out of them. Her intelligence, it was said in the beginning that she's the advisor and brains of the team, so her intelligence is going to be 7. We'll bump that up there. Her courage is 5. I would have put this even lower in order to bump up the intelligence and strength even more, but I think at the very end of the background it says that she's very loyal to the cause, and I didn't feel good giving this character less courage, so courage is going to stay at a 5. And then skill is going to be one of the lower ones. It's going to be 3. It seems like a less important trait to this character. She's got her intelligence, she's got her strength. She doesn't necessarily need to be a super skilled fighter or skilled anything. And finally, endurance is going to be 5. I wanted to make this one even higher, but I got that stupid 30-point limit on myself, so I'm going to keep this one at 5. But she does get a 5-point boost to endurance when she has an enemy locked in close. I feel like she can do this almost kind of like bear hug thing, where she just like gets close to an enemy, wraps him up, is like beating down on him, and in that instance, she's almost like a berserker. Like she will not take damage. And and she's just going crazy on him. So I think that works for me. I think it works for this character. Let me know if you have any other suggestions for this character, what you think would be better for those stats. All right, and the last of the Toa, we have Hunawa. This is the youngest warrior and also son of Goulet. The young warrior is eager to prove himself and is especially trained to be able to get things done on his own. He's agile and very versatile with his arsenal of different tools. Since the death of his mother, Goulet has been having a hard time focusing on protecting the forest 24/7. Hunawa is training hard to get on par or even surpass the abilities of his father. Don't underestimate his size. He will be able to quickly take out enemies before they even notice him. So here you can see we have a big departure from the Bionicle universe in that these characters are actually like blood relatives. So Hunawa is the son of Goulet and a deceased mother. Poor Goulet, going through all this grief, losing his partner while being the leader of defending this forest, and also having a son to raise and train. There's a lot of drama here in this story, and I really like it. It's pretty cool. And it really lends itself to the character design and to the stats that I'm going to give to this character. So Hunawa, I think I can take the strength points down quite a bit, since this is a young Toa who is not fully developed. You can see he's got the really small arms and everything. So I'm going to give the strength just a 2 right now. I'm sure it'll improve over time, but for now I think strength at 2 just fits, and then I can boost up some of the other stats. His speed is going to be 7, since it says he's agile and versatile. So I think speed is going to be an important stat to this character. And he's small and quick, so his speed is his style. His intelligence, right now we'll just say is a 5, just average intelligence. He's smart enough, but he's still learning a lot, so he's building up his knowledge. He's gaining a lot of experience. His courage is 6, definitely not below average for this character. I feel like he's small, but he's willing to take on large opponents, and he's got to do what he can for the forest, since his dad is going through this grief and might not be able to perform as efficiently as always. So Hunawa has to pick up some of the slack, and I think he has the courage to do that. His skill is 7. Yes, it says in the backstory that he's been specifically trained for certain situations, and everything about the character just, to me, says that he would have a lot of skill. And he kind of has to, since he's a smaller guy, so he can't, he's not stronger than his opponents. He's not even necessarily smarter than them, but he just has the skill, the technique. He knows the tricks to get the job done. So his skill is going to be a 7. And his endurance, also, since he's a smaller guy, not as tough, doesn't have the armor that his father has, his endurance is going to be 3. And then for bonus points, his intelligence gets bumped up to a 10 when he is learning a new technique. I think this guy is just really sharp at in terms of learning new skills, so he's going to have a big intelligence boost there. And I also think that this character, if you had like a series about these 3, about this Toa team, I feel like Hunawa would be like the main character. Oh, and I didn't really talk about the build, but it's nice the way that Jordy creates a smaller, almost childlike version of the Toa, using the orange Bohrok limbs, which match nicely with that Vakama mask, and but still giving him some cool tools. He's got the hammer on his back. He's got this saw blade. He's got these long fingers, or as many people interpreted Liwa's fingers, he's just straight up got a gun in his hand. Either way, whatever you think works for you. Sounds like he has some gear, so it could be anything. But yeah, really great build, really fits the character. And then we have some beasts to go along with our Toa team. First we have the Dark Roar, a beast coming from the shadows. These ferocious creatures are a big danger to the forest and are hard to take out. When this creature is near, it's all hands on deck to defeat it. It has all kinds of expandable body parts that create an intimidating presence. Fantastic build here. Again, not a Toa Matsu, but that's totally okay. I'll share whatever you guys send me. You can see it used a lot of parts and a lot of similar design choices to Von Nebula from Hero Factory. You can see those Borak shells, the blue and black spikes. The leg design is very similar, and that's nice. Just using an existing creation, using some of the parts that you like, some of the design choices that you like, and then just making it something completely different. That's a really nice way to approach a mock. And I know it's not exactly the situation, but sometimes I find it really, really fun just to take a specific set or a couple of sets and be like, all right, I'm just going to use the parts that were on this set, maybe add in a few extras, but really I just want to do like an alt model of this one set. And it's like a creative guideline that, in a sense, frees you up because you're not overwhelmed by having so many different parts to choose and everything. You're like, I'm just going to use these parts and make this the best I can. And that is just a really fun exercise. Obviously, this mock is different because it uses a lot of different parts from a lot of different things. But that was just one thing that came to mind when I was looking at it. And I will just say, I really love this mock. To me, it feels so like classic Bionicle. I don't know if any of you ever had the Rahi book, where it had all these different Rahi, most of which were actually made. They were fan submissions. There were like different contests and things, and people could make their own Rahi. And this definitely, it feels like that. You know, it's got that classic Bionicle feel to it. And it like if I saw this in the Rahi book, I'd be like, oh yeah, exactly. That's exactly what it is. But yeah, I think it's great. The colors are fantastic. You know, you really can't go wrong going with black as a base color for a mock. And then those blue highlights on the feet, the spikes, the hooks on the little back tails, whatever they are. It's really nice. And then you have little bits of silver and gray to give it a mechanical quality and let you know where the sharp things are. So that's just design wise, I really like this. And here you can see the Dark Roar facing off against Galewa. The posing in this is fantastic, specifically Galewa, since he has those sort of knee elements. He's got a little more flexibility in his legs, so it's very posable. That's actually one of the things I really like about the Toa. Like this picture right here, like this could have come straight out of like the original Bionicle promotional material. It just looks so good. Really nice picture here. And you got a couple different angles too. It's really nice. Honestly, I've spent a lot of time looking at these because I just think it looks really good. But anyway, moving on to the next beast and the final mock from Jordy L. Thanks, Jordy. You've given us quite a ride here. I really enjoyed it. But the last character is the Devil of the Lake. These creatures sometimes come to land to infiltrate the forest depths in search of prey. These critters are very nimble and monstrous. They will not stop until they get what they came for. They could come in hordes, but fighting them alone will not pose much of a threat in the end. So love it here, and this is a very different character from the previous one, from the Dark Roar, where the Dark Roar was big and monstrous. This character is kind of small, and I get the sense that they're sort of mischievous in a way. Almost, I'm not sure why exactly I think this, but I think of the flying monkeys from The Wizard of Oz. Just sort of, I don't know, mischievous, and in large numbers, they're like really threatening. On their own, you could probably take them out. But together, when there's just a ton of them, they're really overwhelming. And I'm always a huge fan of using Krana as a face or mask piece. The Krana, I wish that they kept doing those throughout the Bionicle years because they were just, I love them so much. In 2020, I started like collecting them again because I had lost all of mine. I mean, I'd only had a few because I didn't have a lot of Borak when they came out. But I've started collecting the Krana, and I want them all because they're just so fantastic. And the way, especially my favorite thing about them, I think, is the way the eyes look in the Krana piece. Because they have a smaller eye hole or slit or whatever. And it always somehow just has such great contrast with the eye color. So you have those yellow eyes in the blue Krana piece, and it's just chef's kiss. Wow. Beautiful. Some other things about this character. I like the aquatic feel to it. It's got the propeller pieces on the neck. It's got the trident on the tail. And then, of course, the blue color. So you know it's a creature that comes from the lake. As the name suggests, it's the devil of the lake. And I think it's interesting, too. I'd be curious to see this mock in real life, or just see some different angles of it, to see exactly how that tail piece is connected. Because you see there's a mata leg piece coming down from the front, from that socket in the front. And I wonder if that is what the tail is connected to, if it goes like all the way back, so the tail is actually like connected on the belly, or if there's like some extra connection and the tail is actually hooked somewhere on the back. And this mata leg piece on the bottom is just separate from the tail. I'd be curious to see that. Either way, I think it's interesting and I think it works well. But last note on this mock, I think it has something that you guys will love. The neck is connected to a ball joint there on the chest, giving it neck articulation, which again, that's always one of the biggest comments that people have is how to do neck articulation. And this is a very good example of how to do it on a mata build, which in this case is actually a Rahi. But we'll finish up here with Jordy L. Thanks. These have been some really nice submissions. I love your Toa designs and I love your Rahi designs. If I had to pick a favorite of all the submissions that you've sent in, I would definitely say the Dark Roar. I think, oh man, I see it here in this picture again with Goulet one. I'm like, oh, these are both really nice mocks. But I think the Dark Roar for me kind of takes the cake. It's just, it's so fantastic. So thank you, Jordy L. We here have Bulb, Toa of Plant Life by Josie K. First of all, the name is perfect. Bulb. I love it. Spelled B-O-H-L-B. Bulb. 100%, you have completed your mission with the name alone. Well done, Josie K. So here's what Josie said in the email. I don't have too much of a story built around Bulb at the moment, but my idea is that he and his team were built to be a plan B in case something ever happened to the Toa Mata. As such, they're kind of like the equal opposite to them. All the members of Bulb's team are made up of secondary elements: sonics, gravity, psionics, lightning, plasma, and of course plant life. And to contrast the Mata being all male save for Gali, Bulb is the sole brother among his sisters. And kind of like Pohatu, he helps act as a glue to help keep the team together. For the most part, he's pretty lazy and laid back, often prefers to nap over much else. Though he lacks a proper weapon, those claws aren't as strong as Onua's, the vines on his arms can grow and extend to apprehend foes and help him get around. Think like a cross between Spider-Man's webs and Bulbasaur's vine whip. His Mask of Illusion also helps with his more evasive combat style. He often likes to confuse and disorient his enemies or shapeshift into a Rahi to blend in, or use that Rahi's abilities to his advantage. Although bird Rahi are difficult for him to mimic. And here are Bulb's stats. His strength is 4, speed is 2, intelligence is 8, courage is 5, skill is 4 or 9, and endurance is 3. So the sum total of this character's stats is actually not 30, it is 26. Yeah, I had to count that there again. Yes, it's 26, with the 5 bonus points being given to skill. So this is a rare instance of a Toa actually coming in under stats. And the 3 words that would define this character are brother, kind, trickster. Again, love seeing people use the stats, and also adopting the 3-word strategy. I like that. It makes me feel like people like what I do, and that's always good to hear. But anyway, I think these stats are interesting for this character. The speed definitely fits with this being kind of a lazy character. With endurance, I think endurance would be the one I would be maybe surprised by, because I would think the character would have, when I think of a Toa of Plant Life, I think of them as having some kind of like regenerative ability, which, you know, it isn't necessarily true. It's just always something I think of with plant-based characters, you know, like Swamp Thing or Swamp Fire from Ben 10. As for the mock itself, I think this is just fantastic. It goes with the kind of maximalist style where there's just everywhere that you could put some kind of armor or interesting piece, there is some kind of armor or interesting piece, which especially works with Toa of plant life because you cover them in plants and then it really gets the aesthetic across. It gets the Toa of plant life theme across. And there's so many nice plant pieces that you can just put anywhere. And it works well with the Hero Factory armor used here, with all those pinholes that you can put the vines in, put the little green spikes in. It's a nice combination of parts. And I also like the use of the trans blue for the shoulders, the arms, then some of the armor. Because if you look it up, a Toa of plant life, their colors are green and blue. And the trans blue here, I think, evokes a sense of water, because that would be so important to plant life. So I think it works well with the character, with the type of character that it is. Another thing, I should touch on this first. The limbs. They are G2 limbs, and they have articulation while also essentially being the same size as the original Mata limbs. So they work really well here with the torso build, which I also quite like, having the extended shoulders there with those trans blue pieces while still having an inverted torso. So it's wide at the hips and wide at the shoulders. And I think it really just works for this character. I feel like this character, the shape of this color, I think also works really well for a Toa of plant life. It has a sort of, not necessarily beast-like quality to it, but it's kind of hunched, it's broad, it feels, I don't know, what am I trying to say? Maybe kind of ape-like, but also like some kind of just swamp creature is sort of what it feels like to me by the shape of it. And I love it. It 100% works. Whatever it is, I'm having a hard time articulating it. But just the shape of it looks like I would think a Toa of plant life would look like. Here you can see the limbs are basically the same size as a Toa limb. Here we have them compared to Rahatu, and they're basically the same size. Even though Bulb is quite a bit more complicated and has a lot more going on than Rahatu did, they're still within the same scale. And here we got Bulb taking a nap, as is his wont. Great detail for the character that he's kind of lazy. And to me it fits with the Toa of plant life, because plants don't really move a lot. So you would think a Toa of plant life maybe wouldn't like to move a lot. He's just kind of napping, just hanging out in the trees. This character has a hammock. 100% sure. He either owns a hammock or he just like makes vines grow around him into a hammock. And he just lays in a hammock like that. So final thoughts, Josie K. You have 100% succeeded with this mock. The colors are great. The build is great. The articulation is great. It's just great. No notes. Perfect job. Well done. I love it. Silent_Toa has submitted a few different mocks. You can also follow him on Instagram. He actually gave me a link here. I'll put that in the description where you can see these mocks and others like it. But first we have Nuki Toa of Ice, a Toa with a royal past, being a previous ruler of a faraway land. He left everything to fight for his people and took on a frosty look. He can control his pentadent to move faster on snow or very cold waters. So first thing I would say, when I hear pentadent, I immediately think of Brooklyn Nine-Nine. If anybody else was there with me, please let me know in the comments. Actually, I would say the pentadent is probably my favorite part about this mock. Just the addition of that, like that Kylo Ren hilt piece with the spikes in it. It looks so good to me. Like, it's a simple thing, but for some reason that it keeps like drawing my attention back to it. I just think it looks really nice. And then going back from there, you can see the arms are these gear pieces that were from Robo Riders, I believe, primarily. Yeah, I think so. And then that all is connected to a fairly standard Mata build, which has some difference in the chest armor there, which I think is really working. I like how that piece is connected all through to the axle piece that would make up the gear function. Then, of course, you got the claws on the shoulder there, which is a nice touch for a Toa of Ice. And it also, I think, contributes to the royal past that was mentioned. I feel like to me, it always feels like a character is kind of royal if they have some kind of shoulder, like adornment, or like a cape, or some kind of big, pauldron, I think. That to me evokes that sense of royalty. And great, of course, to see my favorite mask in use here again. We've seen it on another mock already, but this is just, to me, the best mask. This color, this mask. So yeah, there we have it. Nuki Toa of Ice, who will be followed by Garui Toa of Star Power. The background, she's armed with a long lance and can absorb solar energy to charge herself up, making her more resilient to damage, as well as faster. So my first thought was that this was a Toa of Psionics, but really interesting to hear it's actually a Toa of Star Power, so it's a solar Toa who draws power from the sun, which I think is fantastic. I like the use of these colors to evoke that element. You have the blue like the blue of the sky, and then the yellow like the yellow of the sun, so it feels very fitting to use these colors. And I like that lance piece. The weapons on these mocks, on Silent Toa's mocks, I would say, are really hitting the mark for me. I love them. I also like the hand design. On the other hand, that mate hand piece with the Technic connectors there, and the yellow bush pieces on top of them. It just gives it a very different kind of finger feel. I feel like it's almost kind of armored, in a sense, compared to like the regular fingers on Pohatu or Tahu. But these are more like Liwa's fingers, and they have a little bit extra to them. There's something interesting going on there, and I like it. I also like how the blue and the yellow match with the color scheme. It's also nice to see a yellow mask in use. We don't get a lot of opportunities to do that, since yellow is not available in as many colors for these early mata builds. And it's nice to see it here with those yellow limbs. And I like it. I like the yellow and blue. I'm definitely going to use that color combination for a Toa in the future. I'll probably use that mask too, because I have that mask and Jaller's mask in yellow. So those are kind of the only two options. And coming up, we have one more mock from Silent_Toa. All right, and then finally we have Unurek the Headless. The background here is, wanted to see if I could make a Toa without a head, and this is what came of it. He's not quite granted the level of Toa, but his peers accept him nonetheless, since his giant mouth can pierce through most things. Great character design. I especially love this pic of him eating a frickin' shark. It's really tells you a lot about this character. He's eating the thing that is known for eating other things, and I like it. The build is essentially Anua's build, given the hooks instead of claws, and he's got some extra bits. He's obviously got that big, huge mouth on the chest there, and then has kind of a shoulder antenna sort of or spike piece on each of his shoulders. With the main, everything basically on this mock is bringing attention to that big old mouth on the front. I never actually had any of these pieces. I didn't get that wave of Bionicle G2, but it's used very well here as the mouthpiece. I kind of see that pin in the side as like an eye. I don't know if that's accurate to the character, since he just doesn't have a head. He just has this big mouth. But in my mind, it's kind of hard not to see that piece as an eye. Either way, though, I think this is fantastic. It makes me think of the Monster Book of Monsters from Harry Potter. I'm realizing I like this mock quite a bit, but I'm realizing I don't have a lot to say about it, because it's a giant mouth. And sometimes that's all a mock needs to be. It just needs to be, kind of a normal build, but then with one significant point of difference or point of interest. In this case, a giant mouth on his chest. And it's absolutely perfect. It's just what it needs to be. Up next, here we have Nuparu Toa of Earth by Platon. The background here is, I wanted to share my Nuparu Mari on Mata build, or what if Nuparu became Toa back in 2001. So real simple concept here. We've got a Toa Mata version of Toa Nuparu. We've got the classic Nuparu colors with the orange mask, the black body, and then the gray limbs. So it's a return to the original kind of Nuparu, which to me, definitely one of the top Nuparus. They're all top Nuparus. There is no like lower tier Nuparu. They're all like top tier. First thing I want to mention about this one is the shaping, the general silhouette of the mock. It's very classic Animatoran with the broad shoulders, hunched appearance, kind of wider hips. So it's very, very thick, very sturdy, and hunched over like a Toa of Earth should be. And then, of course, he has the shield and the blaster, which are more reminiscent of Toa Mari Nuparu, because he had that shield and then he had the Kordak blaster. So it's a blending of eras we have here. We have the Manta era with the color scheme and the design, plus the weapon style of the Mari version. Nuparu is always one of my favorite characters. He might be my favorite character. Obviously, I named this channel Nuparu's Workshop, so I'm a big fan of him. I just like that he was an inventor. I'm always drawn to the inventor characters, which especially in the Bionicle universe, because it's like a robot or a biomechanical being who's also an inventor. So they're just like layers of mechanicality, which is not a word at all, to him. And orange and black. Need I say more? Need I say more? So Platon, thank you for this beautiful revamp of Nuparu in the Mata style. I absolutely love it. Thanks to everyone who submitted a mock. It's always kind of scary sharing your stuff with other people. And I hope I treated your mocks with the respect that they deserve. And if you guys have any more submissions, you can keep on bringing them in. Keep on sending them in to Nuparu's Workshop 23 at gmail.com. And I will keep these coming out in the future. That is all. Thanks for sticking around, and you have a wonderful day.